7 myths British people believe about America. This is part 2. Part 1 is already on the channel. I did it a couple days ago. The link will be in the description if you want to check it out. Let's see what these myths are about America.
I'm Lawrence Brown, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to myths. Specifically, myths that British people like myself believe about the United States.
There we go.
Real
That
fans
video
of
is really
Lost in
good.
the Pond will know that I've already done a part 1 in this series, so I
Really
will
good
link to
video.
that at the end. And if you want to become a real fan and you're not yet subscribed to this channel, do that now. Thanks.
Right, what we got this
after
time?
Doing part 1 and having lived in the United States for 14 years and 12 days, I realized that there were just lots of falsehoods that I used to believe about the United States of America, thus warranting a second video. And so, without further ado, here are 7 myths that British people believe about the United States, part 2.
Everyone owns a... Wait. Well, to be fair, I think most people do in a house, right? Well, I kind of believe that, but not everyone.
I used to have this friend when I lived in England who came from a wealthy family, and it was always the topic of conversation among people whenever we'd speak about this person that they had a swimming pool.
Right.
And this was very, very unusual for Britain. But American...
Oh, if you have a swimming pool and you're in the UK, if you have like a swimming pool that's built in the UK... Jesus, man, you'll be the most popular kid in school. I'm not going to lie. It is very rare.
Television shows and Jack Black's Instagram page tend to give us this impression that every house in America has its own swimming pool. And this isn't even close to being true, because a lot of Americans I speak to say they can't even afford a swimming pool, but some would say that even if they could, they wouldn't want to put up with the maintenance of it, because it takes a lot to keep that thing clean and chlorified and whatever else you have to do to it. And
I just thought like they was already built and came with the houses though. You know, like, I don't know. I just always see them.
Most houses I've been to simply don't have one. But I will say this, I think they are slightly more prevalent in the US than they are in Britain. Some houses will have them. Some apartment complexes have them. In fact, I lived at one that did, and it was always packed, so I never went in it.
If interested, that was really good. You can road trip the country in a... Oh, wait, okay. I think where he's going with this is like everyone from the UK don't realize how big America is. So I get it. I talk
a lot on this channel about the sheer size of the United States.
I probably did believe that at some point.
There's also something to be said of the slender size of Britain. So growing up there, you very much got used to this idea that you could drive anywhere in the country well within a day.
Right.
Actually within a third of a day. And because Britain becomes the kind of yardstick by which you see the rest of the world, you sort of assume you can do that in other countries. And for me, the United States was surely no different. So when I visited in 2004, my ex-American girlfriend probably laughed at me when I suggested we do New York, California, and the Grand Canyon in a single week.
Yeah, I get that. See, I did believe that before, but now I've watched many videos to the point where I know for a fact you can't do that. But do you know what I don't know? This is for you Americans that probably have a better estimate than I do. How many days do you reckon it would be? Only, like, without stopping then? Like, maybe you're switching drivers to actually get across the whole entire USA.
Because it is big, right? One of the shortest routes from the East Coast to the West Coast is Savannah to San Diego. It takes 36 hours by car. Now, if you were to drive this route, which seems unlikely, you might be thinking, it's only a day and a half, we'll bring DVDs. Just remember that you have to eat and sleep and go to the toilet and take pictures of yourself over something iconic. You're probably not doing this journey in less than 3 days, so that's more or less half your week gone.
Crazy, man.
And that's the shortest route. If for whatever reason you find yourself driving from Fort Kent, Maine, all the way to Seattle, Washington, that's about 50 hours by car, and even then you have to cheat by driving through Canada.
Americans don't watch soccer football.
I am old enough to remember the 1994 World Cup, and for those of you who don't remember it, it was staged here in the United States.
I feel like my opinion's changed a little bit recently because America made it to the World Cup and stuff. The World Cup. So I feel like more Americans are getting into it, are watching it now. But I feel like maybe 5-10 years ago, I definitely did believe that like America just didn't care about soccer football at all.
And at the time, I remember a lot of the narrative coming out of the British media was that the United States and its people don't care about football/soccer. But now that I live here, I've discovered that that is still sort of true, but not to the degree I thought it would be. I mean, sure, soccer is still way behind the big four. So
it's getting
NFL,
a little bit of popularity.
Baseball, hockey and basketball. But whenever I've been into one of those authentic British-style pubs that you find in the United States, and there's a football match on from the Premier League, there's usually quite a lot of people in there. And I know what you're thinking. Ooh, Lawrence, that's just other English immigrants. And that is partly true, but you'll hear a lot of American accents too.
Right.
And, you know, they'll be bashing the referee along with the rest of us. Not literally, we get a bit rowdy.
Jeez.
And here in Chicago, where you have the Chicago Fire, I often meet soccer fans proudly wearing the jersey of Manchester United. And once every 4 years, we have this little thing come around called the World Cup. And if the United States is involved in that, as they are at this one, Americans start to take an interest until they lose to England this Friday. The other thing to mention is that soccer is played quite widely in American schools, right? You'll just be driving down the road and you'll be like, oh, there's a goalpost in America, and they're all over the place.
See, that's what I was surprised about, right? Is how many goals there is in America, well, like football pitches, soccer football pitches, because I just assumed that it wasn't like, it would be very rare to see one. Well, apparently they're more common than we think.
And this is because American girls and boys seem to play soccer all the way throughout their education and then just stop. Although some do go on to play professionally, and in the case of the women's team, routinely win the World Cup.
Right, Americans pronounce words wrong. Wait.
Yes,
okay, here we go.
Belief that it is in fact Americans who are wrong with their pronunciations. Right. Well, firstly, has anyone ever stopped to consider that maybe none of us are wrong? That there isn't a right way to say aluminium, there are just different ways.
Right.
And secondly, I constantly get surprised while researching for this channel that American pronunciation of words or spelling of words or just the words themselves are often more in line with the word's origin. Take the word herb, for example, and watch my YouTube short about that very thing. The H, which most Americans drop, was originally silent in French. The way Americans pronounce the L's differently when they say paella is very much in line with how they do it in Spain. Our own British offering of paella isn't. And I could run down hundreds more examples, but that's what my YouTube...
we're both right, we're both wrong. You know what I mean?
Shorts are for.
There's no right or wrong in that. Fair enough. Wait, what's that?
For examples, but that's what my YouTube shorts are for.
Americans are... See, I never thought this. So I don't know what British people are thinking this. I always just thought that Americans are loud, confident, and recently very, very, very polite.
During my life on this planet, I've definitely heard British people make the assertion that Americans are rude.
That's very rich coming from British people, by the way, because I would think, well, I know British people are some of the rudest, grumpiest people on the planet, right? So that is very, very rich coming from them.
And it's a weird thing because, of course, there are rude Americans. You're never going to get rid of those.
Right, of course.
There are rude British people too.
A lot.
And rudeness is something you pretty much find everywhere. And I have to say, at least in the Midwest, where I've lived in about 4 different cities now, I don't feel like I've encountered a higher degree of rudeness here than I did in the UK.
Yeah,
and
UK
on the
is
whole,
crazy
just
rude.
like with the UK, most people try to be polite. Actually, if anything, in the UK, we have this thing among friends known as banter, in which we call each other names that if I said right now would probably get me demonetized. And, you know, in my experience, that banter does spill over into rude territory.
Yeah.
Because sometimes Uncle Toby doesn't know when he's gone too far.
Yeah.
So rudeness is sort of relative, and I tend to believe that there are no higher percentage of rude Americans than any other people on Earth.
Right. The US doesn't have many accents. Oh my, wait, no. The US has, I suppose this is like a kid myth. Like growing up when I was younger, I thought the American accent was just like a couple standalone accents, right? But I hear all sorts of different accents from teenagers onwards. Below teenagers, sure, but
I think instinctively we all think this about every country on earth except our own, because we know that our own country represents something of a rich tapestry of dialects.
Right.
We just sort of become hyper aware of that fact and just assume that nowhere else in the world can say the same thing. And because I grew up in Britain, I was very much attuned to the fact that we had various Yorkshire dialects, Scouse, Mancunian, Geordie, Scottish dialects, Welsh dialects, Irish dialects, Cockney. But I didn't have that same awareness of American dialects. To us, there's just three. There's General American, whatever that is.
Right.
There's the dialect used by mobsters in films set in New York. And then the South. And
See, when I was younger, I thought the typical three. I was going to say like gangsters, normal American. I don't know what normal American is. And then the South, right? But, you know, when you start developing some sort of a brain at like 12, that's when you start realizing, oh, wait, there's a lot of accents.
that's about it. But it was only after I lived here for a few years that I really started to hear quite a lot of differences in the sounds that would come from various parts of just the Midwest. You got the way they speak in Chicago, which is not that, is my best impersonation. You got the way they speak in Wisconsin, which I'm not even going to try to do. And then the way they speak in Indiana, which sounds closer to Southern in my opinion. And that's just the region I've lived in. You go to the East Coast, there's an absolutely mental amount of differences in the way people say
there'll
words.
be loads.
Or the words themselves, especially if you're ordering a sub sandwich. Same in the South, same in the West, same in the Rockies, same in the Pacific Northwest. It's almost a poem, just without the Great Plains. The Great Plains.
Americans don't have a sense of humor. Right, okay, I don't believe this one. Oh, I never thought of this one. But what I have thought is Americans don't get British humor, right? Because I could say some sort of... No, sarcasm. If I was to be sarcastic right now, I feel like you guys wouldn't really... I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of Americans don't really get British sarcasm.
Finally, I've touched on this before. You know, I think that Americans, much like Germans, often get this reputation that they don't have a sense of humor.
Right.
What we actually mean when we say that is they don't have a British sense of humor.
Like,
How
yeah.
dare America differ from that in any conceivable way?
That
But
makes
they
sense,
do.
though.
They even spell humor differently, which should have been our first clue. One of the chief accusations that you'll hear from the British is that Americans don't understand sarcasm. That to them, the
that's what I was
concept
just
of
saying.
irony is reserved for the nation's industrial workers. That was a joke about iron. But this has never been my experience. Long before I moved to the United States, I recognized these very traits in the Onion, both the satirical rag and the vegetable, whose comedy doesn't get enough credit for how multi-layered it is. And if you're interested in this subject and you would like a more detailed breakdown on how these differences manifest, then check out my video, 5 Ways British and American Humor is Very Different.
Oh, that'd be a good video, actually.
Let me know in the comments below some of the myths.
Really good video, though. And yeah, do the same. Let me know some myths down below that you guys think is about America that us British people think, or vice versa. Really good video. Enjoy that. We definitely will be checking out part 3 because I think there's a part 3 of this and the other videos, so make sure to be on the lookout for them. But yeah, really good video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe for more content. I am live every single day on twitch.tv/alpha if you guys want to check me out over there. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.